I do like that hoes.
Alrighty, what's up, my niggas? So, I'll introduce myself real quick. So, my name is Jordan, but most people know me as Supernatural 001. I played a bunch of servers on Talisman Online. Um, did that for like almost a decade. I got banned, took a break. I was a GM of my server for the past 2.5 months, but I just haven't had time, and I just finding a bunch of bugs in my server, so I decided to close it down today. It was Talisman of Noxus. Wasn't big and wasn't crazy like some of these servers, but I learned pretty much everything from scratch, from trial and error. I'd try to make an item. If something didn't work, I'd look in the file and see what every little column would do. I used a forum on Raid Zone for a lot of it. That's how I learned a lot of things. But I also had one or two friends who helped me in specific on certain things. A lot of these events, they taught me how to do. But this series is going to be, I'm going to try to, knowledge is power. So I'm going to try to teach people from scratch, from the very basic. So I'm going to show pretty much how I learned. And I've trying to get my server online. I failed at like 50 times to the point where I've memorized like commands in Linux. I've never even used Linux before this, but I've memorized commands just because I failed so many times. So like, we're gonna start from scratch. I'm not that good of a teacher, but I want to try to go into detail for as much as I can for anything I can think of that might come up. My Bandicam, I didn't buy it, so it's only 10 minutes. So there might be times where I'm going in and like I totally forgot that my Bandicam stopped recording, and I might jump. It might just look like I like jumped 2 minutes into something afterwards. If I catch myself, I'll try to go over what I missed. But we're gonna start from scratch. So first thing you want to do is if you want to get a server up, you're gonna need two main things. I guess for start, you're gonna need VMware. That's where you are going to do all your testing at. And VMware, you can Google. I have a specific version one that I use just because it's the one that I've been using from the start. It works for me. I don't know which version I got. If I look up here right now, shit, can't type. This is Linux. I don't know what version of VMware I have, but I don't use the most up to date one. Same thing with my Linux is the most up to date. But what you want to do is first you're going to install VMware. I guess really any version works. So once you got VMware up, so I'll open up my VMware. So once I got number 9, version 9. So once you got it installed, you're gonna need one more thing before you even can start working on your server. You're gonna need a Linux. So I use 10.10. I tried some other versions, but it looked mad different for me, and I'm not used to them. But this is the one I've been using from the beginning, and it works. So you want to get the ISO. You can Google Linux 10.10 ISO, and I'm sure you can find it anywhere, somewhere in here. But once you got that, you got VMware installed, you're gonna go into VMware. You're gonna click create a new virtual machine. Typical, most of these prompts you just follow through. So right now you want to find the pathway to where you got the ISO at. So let's go editing servers. Shit. ISO right there. Boom. So we're gonna click the ISO. Just gonna find it. Boom, boom. 10.10 detected. So we'll click next. Full name. I usually named it after my server, but this doesn't matter. This is just for you. It's not gonna affect your server. This is just for Linux. So we'll do testing. Username. You can't use root because there's already a root account. So I just do, my normal one, and then you put in your password. Boom, run it through. The VM name doesn't really matter. That's just for your purposes. So I'll do testing. I put this on my Nega drive because it has like 2 terabytes of space. We'll do testing VM. Boom. Next. Um, I'm not very good at, like, I don't know a whole lot about computers and shit, but this size, depending on how big, how much space you have on your computer, you might want to up it. So I have mine to 40 because the drive that it's on is 2 terabytes, so I got the space for it. Um, and like, cause like my client was big, my client was 6 gigabytes alone. Obviously, the client wasn't in the host, but the my EVP alone was 300 megabytes. So depending on how much shit you got in, 40 gigabytes should be good enough. So we're gonna click next. There's one thing in here that I remember. Yeah, so I changed this up to 4, the memory. So I think it's 1 by default. I changed it to 4. Just make sure VM run a little better. Keep all that the same. You'll click finish, and then it's gonna install Linux into your VM. It takes about 5 minutes. Once I get this loaded back up, I'll continue the video. All right, we are back. Took probably about 10-15 minutes to get it installed. You kind of just sit there and let it do its thing. You don't go anything, so that's why I paused it. Got the cool little Linux entrance sound. I like that better than Windows. So at this point, one thing we're gonna do is because I know sometimes it doesn't let me copy and paste from like my local desktop onto the VM. So what I normally do is I map a shared drive so that I can copy anything over. So there you go to no, you right click here, go to settings. I know some versions it doesn't allow it. You have to like set up some other shit. I don't you have to like VMware tools or whatever to do it. But as I go to shared folders, I do enable and then I map uh the drive that I'm gonna have anything that I want to put on my VM in. So in this case, we'll just do the whole editing servers folder. Enable, yep, okay, and then uh, reference on how you would get to whatever folder you map is go to file systems or yeah file system. You go to MNT. I think it's like management HDFS, and then boom, there's your thing and everything inside's there. So what we're gonna do first. I'm gonna copy a couple things over. There's a couple things you're gonna need. There's multiple ways to get your server online from just the VM, but we're gonna do the real basic one. We're gonna do it as if it's just gonna be you trying to get on your VM, because you can set it up where you can have other people join your server that's hosted on your VM alone. But that's a lot of extra steps. So we're gonna do the basic one because most people they do their VM just to get it just to test shit, and then they go onto their actual server, which is on like a third party host. So we're gonna go over here. And a couple things we're gonna take. We need Navicat. This is where you open this up to see all your databases, like your game database, your account database. Everything for your server. We're gonna take that. We're gonna take the MySQL client, and we're gonna take little configurations on how to. This is where all the commands. This slow file has all the commands um, for Linux. I'm just gonna throw those here on the main desktop. And we are also going to copy our server folder, the server folder that will be put it on the VMware on your host. I got that. And test clients, editing, and we're just going to copy the game server. Oh, 1 second. I think I did the wrong one. Nope. Wrong one. Here in the server folder. And we're going to get into the server folder. This is where you're going to be working out of mainly once we actually get Linux set up and MySQL set up and everything. But I'm just pasting everything that I'm going to be using there. So while that starts, we will begin once I get everything copied over. We'll continue. Alrighty, we are back and we got everything copied over. So what we'll begin is we're going to open up a terminal. And you can't really edit the little small window for Linux, so it's kind of shit. So I can't like run these things side by side. So I kind of like got to jump back and forth. So first thing you want to do is we're pretty much going to go into admin. We're going to go into the root account. So suit for Linux, the command is sudo tag s. You put in your root password, which is the password I made at the beginning. And then we're going to, I don't understand none of this. I just know this is all for setting up Linux, for installing or updating Linux. So I'm just going to copy, paste, let that shit run, doom. And then we're going to do an update. Oh, I'll put another one by accident. We're going to do an update, paste, and it's going to run through. And then next, we are going to install MySQL, which is we already got the files for your MySQL right here. Live MySQL. These commands are just pretty much going to be pulling it, and you're going to be setting an admin password for your MySQL, and then that's done. And then you actually have to install it. But we got done with the update, so we're gonna throw this command. Let's do its thing. You're gonna click Y for yes. After this, it should ask you for you're gonna set up your password for the MySQL, which we will need that password for later. So you want to remember what password you set up for that. So once it runs through, do all its little things. This whole setup from start to finish, you can do in about 10 minutes if you know what you're doing to get your server online. It's really simple. Most of it is just copy and pasting. If you have this little file that I have, you just copy and paste it, and like we're more than 50% done with the actual setup. Then we just have to, after we set up MySQL, we just have to edit some files in actual server folder, which is just editing the IP address mostly, and your SQL password. So right here, we're gonna set up the SQL password for the root account. Put it in once. You're gonna put it in twice. Boom, and then that'll be done. And then the next one, we're gonna install the libmysql, which I already copied over the execute file. Right now the video's only been 13 minutes, and I've explained everything, and we're pretty much more than halfway done. And I've only been in Linux for like pretty much like 3 minutes. We'll talk about my PHP later. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But after this, after we set up the libmysql, then we're gonna get into. We'll click OK on this, or click Enter, and then it should be done. This is like the longest part of everything, just letting these things, letting the commands do its thing, update. It's taking way long. It's doing a lot more than I thought it would. It's been a while since I've actually like started from scratch. Jeez. It's running pretty slow. Well, it's not running slow. I mean, it's doing a lot. So what we will do, well, let me see. I think it's about to be done. I don't like sitting and like kind of waiting. It's kind of a waste of time in the video. So I'm gonna try to avoid things like this, like these loading screens. So for now, since I'm not sure how much is left, I'm gonna pause and then we'll continue once this command is done updating. All right, it's done. So we're gonna install the libmysql. It'll pull up oh, I did something wrong. Oh wait, give me a second. We're gonna open this up. My fault. You don't need to do the command for it because we already have it there. So we'll open it up, and it's gonna ask us once this loads to install. We'll click install. You're gonna have to put in your root password. See, I've done it so many times, and I still forget some things. So there's a lot to go into it. Um, but after about the trial and error, you kind of know what you do wrong. Especially like if you get like we don't really get any errors in here, but like the good thing about it is when you're running your when you go to turn your server on and it runs the EVP, it usually tells you exactly what line and which file causes the error if it doesn't go up. So we're done with that. So now we're going to open up Navicat, and this is where you would go to check all your databases. I want to say that I skipped something. I guess I didn't. I thought I skipped something. Okay. So now we're going to go to connections. We're going to click MySQL. The connection name can be anything. It doesn't matter. Testing. The only thing that matters is this password, which is the SQL password that you set up when you ran that when you ran this command over here. When you ran the install MySQL, that password you set up there is with the one you put in there. Click test connection. Connect successful. Boom. And when you click here, you'll see the databases. Well, I lied. So these two databases will show by default. And once you run your EVP, the database account, game, and I think logs is the third one, those will appear under there. So for now, we can get out of this. And now we're done with Linux. So we're going to work on our server. So in Linux, to see what the IP of your VM is, you're going to right click these arrows, click connection information. So this is our IP, 192.168.1.135. It's a private IP. So in each of these files, in each of these folders, DB, game, and login, they're about the same, like with files in there. Like they each have these two files right here, which are the ones we'll be editing, these .inis, guard and server ini in both of them. And then they got all the way out, and they each have a exe here. This is an exe. The only things that you will ever have to edit in these are these three, and this one, these exes. The only thing you want to do, because you need to make sure that your server won't go on, is you want to make the permissions say read and write, not just read only. You want them to be read and write. Depending on what server version you have, they'll automatically be read and write, but some will be read only, and you're going to want to adjust that. And then they each have a log folder, which is the log of when you turn the database on. It'll give you a log of it. That's I don't go into it, but anyway. So what we're gonna do, doesn't matter which one you start with, but you're gonna edit these garden user server user inis and all three. So we're gonna open up here. So any IP here, the default IP is gonna show up, and depending on what server you got, you're gonna change it to match your VM1. If any of these IPs are missed or you skip one, your server's it's not gonna work. You'll get an error, which I can show you actually when we try to turn it on. I'll just skip the last one of them. Actually, okay, yeah. So here, in these databases, see the game account log. Those three databases will show up in Navicat once you get your server online for the first time. But you're gonna put in your SQL password. Now we're in the game folder, and we're gonna edit the two there as well. So we're gonna change the IP here. Save, close, and then we're gonna change all the IPs here. Yeah. And then in this one as well, I believe is yep. So if you would open up a client, even like normal Talisman, and the top left it shows the name of the game. This is where you would edit. So testing. I'll name it testing. Yeah. So that's for like if somebody opens up the client, they'll see in the top left. All right, welcome back. The video ran off again, and I missed a couple things. I think I just caught it maybe 10 seconds after. So this will be what we'll do is I'll make every video 25 minutes long. So right now we're about a little over 20 minutes. So what we'll do is I'll just go real quick over what I missed, or the what I just went over before I noticed that the recording stopped, and then I'll that'll be the end of this first video, and then I'll continue with a second video. So all I did was I edited the guard user and the server user files within the game folder. I just changed the IPs, and then I went over that in this one here. You'll see the name and description. You want to change this to match like the name of your game, so that if somebody would open up your client, they will see in the top left, like how on Talisman Online it says Talisman Online, and then the server name. You would want that to show up there, so you would edit that here. So that's gonna be it for this first video. Well, no, I lied. So because we're in the middle of something. So the last thing we have to do is we gotta edit the login folder. So we will go here. We're gonna open up login and guard user. So we're gonna leave this guard user one blank for teaching purposes of an error, and then we'll show that error, how we work through that in the next video. But right now, all you would do is you would change that IP to your VM as well. But for the end of this first video, I'm just gonna change all these just to show you. I mean, I don't have to show you. It's pretty simple. Just change the IP to match your VM. Boom, done. So I'm gonna end the video here, and then I'm just gonna continue from this spot, but then I'm gonna make a second video.